getting better at something sucks. Like, it really sucks. And the reason it sucks so hard is because it's entirely at odds with your ego. Because I used to paint from my childhood into my teen years, I found it so incredibly hard to find the confidence to pick it back up in my adulthood. I enjoyed painting so much as a kid. I loved the quiet solitude of the studio, my art teacher who was so funny and supportive. I loved the smell of the linseed oil and washing my brushes in the massive steel sink at the end of a long session. I loved the art room at my high school, which I would sneak away to at any given chance to have lunch by myself. It was a place where I felt I was good at something, when I felt awkward or lonely or odd. I would enter competitions locally and would sometimes win awards. I built my self-esteem around being kind of good at this thing, or at the very least being good at this thing for my age. And this, dear viewer, was the crux of the problem. I effectively stopped painting when I moved from my hometown in Arkansas to Los Angeles. Because in all honesty, I was a broke teen sharing a tiny apartment and had no way of renting extra space for a place to paint. I spent almost the entirety of the rest of my 20s making some excuse as to why I couldn't make the time or the space to paint. Admittedly, the apartments were small. Admittedly, I spent a long time traveling between two countries, which meant extra money, and time was spent falling in love with my husband, a trade-off that was completely worth it, by the way. But my excuses led to inaction, and my inaction did two things simultaneously. One, it created this dream life whereby if I could just set up the perfect surroundings, make enough money so that I could spend some time getting back into painting, I would finally be perfectly happy in life as a painter. Sorry, a very talented painter. As a direct consequence to thing number one, thing number two was a crippling fear of actually being very bad and amateurish and out of practice and generally unself-aware of how embarrassing I was at this thing I've built a portion, perhaps my favorite portion of myself, up around. The fear of being judged by others was only ever trumped by the fear of disappointing myself. I'm realistic. I knew I was way out of practice, and I knew I would judge myself 10 times harder than anyone else would. So I completely stalled out, preventing myself from doing the one thing that makes me feel totally at peace in life. I still managed to do some artistic things here and there, but I could not and would not challenge and test myself. My artwork was secretive and hidden from everyone so that I could make something truly mid as hell in private occasionally. If I didn't challenge myself, I would never get better at this thing I loved, but I would also never have to confront possibly still having my high school art be my peak. I could live in the fantasy of a near-ish future where I was going to start painting again, and I was incredible right away, and I could enjoy that fantasy without putting in any of the hard work and ego death that it would take to get there. A brilliant plan. The glaring problem with this plan is that I would be miserable for the rest of my life, wasting years where I could get back into the flow of it, rekindle the spark. As I was writing this script, I got served up a very apt Instagram reel that was talking about this very topic, the weight of inaction, how heavy and immovable it feels. There was a really incredible comment that was left on this video, and I thought I would read it because I thought it was really good and I thought it resonated. This is by The Illuminist. I'm not promoting their Instagram by any means, but I just wanted to give them credit for a very good comment. There's something painfully accurate about the way potential can start feeling heavier than failure itself. Sometimes people aren't avoiding the work because they don't care enough. Sometimes they care so deeply that the weight of becoming overwhelms their ability to begin. And I have never resonated with something more. The times when I have wanted to start painting again the most are the times when this feeling of inadequacy or fear of not living up to what I had in my head starts to creep in. The other problem with getting back into painting is that I feel like I know what I appreciate in painting. I know what I appreciate when I look at other artists and what I admire in them. And, you know, things that I think are really cool, I want to emulate them. But I don't have the language to do that because I haven't put in the hours and the work to learn it. There's a pretty famous quote from Ira Glass, and it's the quote is called the taste gap quote. And I'm just going to read it for you because I think it's also another great thing to think about. Nobody tells this to people who are beginners. I wish someone told me. All of us who do creative work, we get into it because we have good taste. But there is this gap. For the first couple years you make stuff, it's just not that good. Your taste, the thing that got you into the game, is still killer, and your taste is why your work disappoints you. A lot of people never get past this phase and they quit. These were all lessons, some of which I'm still learning, that I experienced in that space of being terrible. And you know what the weird thing was? I actually enjoyed it. Not being bad, obviously, that sucked. But the most important aspect of my journey in painting, I had regained. I could put my headphones in or paint outside and listen to my surroundings and time travel, completely zone into what I'm making and let the world fall away around me. The simple joy of a singular focus and the underestimation of how much problem solving and brain training I was doing while focusing. Why don't I like the way these colors are mixing? What if I went paler next time with the green? Or more yellow? There's only one way to find out. And this thinking started seeping into my daydreams and the 10 minutes that feel like an hour before I'm about to fall asleep. And the visions I would have would be an equation. What do I need to paint to make these images real? And because I've been making the boring art, I started knowing the mistakes before I made them. The frustration of fucking up something that sounded really cool in my head spurred me on. I've now been back at my easel for 3 years and time has flown by. I'm nowhere near where I'd like to be in my understanding of my own artwork, and the skills I still need to learn, let alone master, are miles long. But it's been really satisfying seeing the visions getting that little bit closer to reality. Failing at rendering a building or a tree or a face, getting frustrated and blocked, and then waiting patiently for the eureka moment that might fix the problem has been such an enjoyable cycle to be stuck in. Every once in a while, all that work culminates and I paint something that surprises me. It makes me feel good and it gets me that bit closer to feeling proud of something. And the shocks of getting it right get less and less shocking and more predictable. I can do that. I can paint that. I'm capable. And now the paintings that are somewhat successful inspire a better version. New visions that are even more challenging but somehow easier to tackle at the same time. I'm learning to trust the voice in my head that says, don't add too much mixing medium or it'll be plasticky. Wait 2 days instead of being impatient and smearing the whole thing in an attempt to layer too quickly. Which underpaint to use on different color profiles to make them pop. How much of the underpaint to let show? Maybe not at all sometimes. It's all a big experiment, and the results are mixed at best, but slowly getting better. The fact that artists have evidence of their failed attempts and inadequacies around them is so helpful. It gives you distance from the whole enterprise, and it lets you see the results of slow growth. So many of my newer paintings are overpaintings, covering a past bad piece that wasn't worth the canvas it was painted on. I take pictures of almost everything, so I still have originals, but I love covering an old shit piece with something I know I'll like a lot more. I also save space and money on new canvases as an unsung bonus, and maybe I'll keep painting over certain canvases forever. As my skill and taste change, even a painting I think worthy of a canvas now will probably feel embarrassing and due for an overhaul. Or maybe another lesson I'll learn will be letting an idea rest. Imperfect and unsatisfying as that is. Hold on, what am I doing on a train? It looks like we're going on a bit of a field trip. That's right, you're coming along to a classic Arden and Will date night, courtesy of today's sponsor, Candlelight. The Candlelight show we got tickets for was held in the absolutely stunning and historic Central Hall, Westminster. And when I walked into the venue, I felt like I was transported to a freaking fairy tale. If you ever need a nervous system reset, go to a Candlelight show. I was so at peace and soothed for the entire performance. And if you've been looking for a good excuse to go on a highbrow date night to listen to classical musicians do their thing in the most visually stunning way possible, then Candlelight definitely has a show for you to go see. Okay, it's time for us to enjoy the show. So again, a big thank you to Candlelight for sponsoring this video and letting us go on this cool date night. If you'd like to check out a Candlelight show, you can click the link in my description and get 10% off of bookings in the next 2 weeks if you'd like to go see something. Another valuable lesson that's come with time has been knowing when I'm just not there yet with a painting and I need to walk away and come back sometimes weeks or months later with fresh eyes and more XP logged on my artistic skill tree. That happened and continues to happen with this painting of these rooftops. I can't tell you how many times this painting has been on and off the easel, how many layers deep I am of adding and subtracting. There's actually another completely different painting under this one that I hated, which is funny. It's like my own sedimentary layers or rings on a tree, but every time I think it's done or I've overdone it and it needs to scale back or change the colors or whatever, I've just let this one take me anywhere it needs to take me. And I think it's finally finished. For now, anyways. And that's what I task you with as we near the end of this video. Interrogate what it is that you love doing and what stands in your way. Sometimes it is money or space or ability, and those are valid stop blocks. But if you get to the root of it, is there a tiny version of that love that you can nurture into a bigger portion of your life? Is it picking up a journal and writing down your ideas or doodling on napkins at restaurants? Is there an urge you push down because of a fear of disappointment or inadequacy? The fear can only be impactful if the urge is undeniable. So why not at least try?
Is that good? That's how big it is.
Okay.